Really? Can't be serious.
Legislation buried for the cost of billion-dollar backroom deals that profit from our loss. What good is tomorrow if born to die in waste? Is trust just an illusion? Is a promise a mistake? And as sure as the sun shines, as sure as the grass grows and the rivers flow, I'll be there beside you, pulsing through your veins. You'll feel my heart, you know. Time has come to recognize deceptions of the past, seek truth and stand together at last. Sure as the sun, sure as the trees, and the rivers flow free, I'll be there, I'll be there, you can count on me. I'll be with you when we stand together at last. As sure as the sun shines, as sure.
All right. Hey, welcome, everybody. Thanks, Phyllis Sinclair, at last. And this is UCY.TV, connecting voices, broadcasting what matters worldwide. And you can listen and chat here 24/7. So upcoming tonight, we've got a future host of UCY, Judas Crowley, Subliminal Sanity. And he's going to be discussing some logical theories of the terrorist attacks on 9/11. He's joining me for the first hour. Second hour, we've got activist and reporter PM Beers, and really a great person. Met her up in Bunkerville and have been active with her. Super person, my hero, among my peers for certain. And she's going to discuss about why everyone should live stream. Later in the second hour, hey, we got Keeper of the Republic, the Roaring Bear Miner Dave. And he's going to be discussing some of his story and mining laws and our relationship to the land via the BLM and other agencies. So he's going to help us connect a little of the dots. And finally, my good friend, Mr. Wiley Freeman, and he's written a great song, a bunch of great songs, matter of fact, and I'm going to be putting more of those up. So I have posted that up, and man, almost 1,000 views in 2 days. It is a great song, and I'm gonna grab the link right here, and I'm gonna pop it off into chat. Y'all guys, if you haven't listened to it, give it a listen. And for y'all listening downstream, if you'll do a search on YouTube with the hashtag the Battle of Bunkerville, and you will find that. Hey Becky, how you doing? Thanks for sharing. And so here I come back over. And Judas, welcome. How you doing, brother? And we got a delay.
Daddy, you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, okay. And I will remind everybody I'm broadcasting from satellite. So there is a bit of a delay. And Judas,
you can hear me, right, Vin?
Oh yeah, I hear you. I hear you good.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Thank you for It's great to be on. Thanks for having me on once again.
Yeah, hey, yep. Judas debuted right here with us, and glad to have you back on. You got a show coming here pretty soon. I think you said in June sometime.
Yeah, it's going to be June 8th and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I guess that would be what, 6 p.m. on Pacific Standard Time.
Okay.
I think it's like 2-3 hours. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m.
Okay.
Anywho, I might as well just dive right into the facts that I got going on. The way I kind of want to look at this is like...
Sorry, you follow... I think you're going to be following Drew David and Chuck on double-crossed right here that follows What Matters Worldwide here that we're on. So, yeah, really great lineup. Chuck Ocelli comes on right before me, and he had Leave Here, Leave the Mouth. Hey, yeah, you guys did a great job. Enjoyed listening to the show. So listen, Judas, take us into 9/11. I'm going to turn it over to you. And you and I spoke today.
All right, buddy.
We got a lot of great information, and I think everybody's really going to enjoy this. I'd like to say hello to everybody in chat. Hey, Dodie, Lisa, and Desert Hog, 8 Hogs, everybody loves Hog. Yeah. So, hey, Jax, he's my man.
Woo! So, yeah, Jax rock, man. You know, Jax is rocking it, man. But I'm gonna jump right into what I've done and the way I look at it. Can you hear me?
You're good. You go ahead. There's Dave too. Yeah, go ahead, man. Take it away, brother.
In most investigations, if you're a detective or like an individual looking into something, there's no coincidences in the world. Everything is like a fact or a clue that could lead you somewhere down to the facts. You know what I'm saying? Down to the total story. So when I look at 9/11, I would kind of look at like specific people involved. And if we were going to look at it in an angle of an investigation, we would look at specific people that were at least either supposed to be responsible as well as seem to appear to be involved, and as well as other individuals that are behind the scenes, not publicly announced all the time, but are also have a lot of ties to 9/11 as well. But I'm going to jump right in because you can go from how the towers fell or why they fell, or we could talk about the semantics that I want to jump into, which is some of the people to blame, that if we were going to hold somebody accountable, if we were in the olden days, we were going to lynch somebody, and we wanted the facts, and the Americans were going to point fingers at people to blame, let's figure out a couple people. Another thing towards an investigation, let's look at the evidence involved. They turned the scrap metal from the towers, into a Navy ship called USS New York. One day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld publicly announced the conspiracy from the Pentagon, where $2.3 trillion of tax money just went up missing one day before 9/11. Now, one day after that, we never heard of it ever again. That is $8,000 per American, and that's man, woman, and child. Now, there was no investigation from that moment that it happened, Bush basically made a speech about how enemies of freedom committed an act of war against our country. The only ones that have been losing freedoms ever since 9/11 is the people from this government. But I want to discuss the Patriot Act because I believe that it was a pre-designed document before 9/11 enforced by the event of 9/11, and it's the ultimate domino effect to the Constitution being destroyed here in America. And when you start looking at past influences and figures in our life, and a breath after World War II, and where our nation kind of was at that time, and also individuals at that time that kind of predicted where the world was going to head, individuals like George Orwell, Aldous Huxley, etc. Well, Aldous Huxley made a speech about this very subject back in the 50s, but more emphasizing on how it's going to be more of a totalitarianism, global dominance through corporations built around the government that will actually run the government itself. And that's kind of what we got going on. And talking about basically eliminating everybody's rights, but they won't even really know it. And, we'll basically just be completely okay with it. But I'm going to move on with 9/11. So moving on with 9/11, all the natives that I have, or that we are in the American culture, we're basically being brought into a generation that we have feared our whole lives. While the masses of our new generations, the children coming up, they're beginning to think that this is normal. It's just like, they don't even question, and this to me is just how it's gotten so out of control. And now, if you don't see the same patriotism that you saw back in the day. And I think this is also happened to do with the dumbing down nations, well, our nation particularly, through these GMOs that they're talking about and particular things. But they knew that this was coming and knew it was going to work by a specific kind of propaganda scheme, exactly how Hitler did it back in World War II. Now, I believe the people at the top of the trade centers and Building 7 was actually the day that our government for the people got fired, and our government got hijacked by bankers and individual corporations back around the time even when George Bush Sr. was in office, and maybe even as back as far as JFK was in office. But when you start looking at the things that brought down, and if you look at Building 7, that was actually the CIA, and I suggest people do a lot of research on these buildings particularly, and the people at the top of the buildings and individuals and offices that were up there, because they were really involved in a lot of high-class governmental stuff. Now, what I believe took it down, and I know it's going to sound crazy, but from my research is they can turn like a super thermite powdered oxide in aluminum, and it can actually be painted on, and when you're painting it, it's actually safe. But it's when it dries, it's highly explosive. And when you start looking at jet fuel that completely collapses buildings, it's never been heard of in the history of buildings ever when it comes down to planes crashing into buildings or anything like that. Now, when you start looking at, I want to kind of point out Donald Rumsfeld because, all right, well, another thing too is like the day after September 11th, we never heard of that conspiracy again of the $2.3 trillion. And after that, billions of tax dollars went to Afghanistan as well that ended up unaccounted for. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So, basically, another interesting fact is that prior to the 9/11 resources disclosed that many attempts were made to inform the CIA and the FBI and the Bush administration that these attacks were actually planned to take place. But did nothing to further investigate it. And in fact, they even had a couple of people that were a part of the FBI that, okay, can you guys hear me? I apologize, I'm on a little piece of crap until I think tomorrow, yeah. So, when you start looking at the fact that the FBI was trying to investigate the information that the CIA and the FBI had gotten from this individual. And I'll tell you his name, actually, because I might as well go right into that, because this is pretty interesting in itself. And there was an individual that actually had ended up getting arrested a month before 9/11. And I'm not good with pronouncing names, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you the information that I've got here. It's right here. Okay. So this individual, another high-level critical intelligence breakdown occurred in the case of Zacarias Massoaya, or Masso, it's Moussaoui. Well, there you go, okay? So he was actually the so-called 20th hijacker. Messiah, or whatever, was arrested in August 2001, and a full month before 9/11 attacks, when arrested, he had in his possession a laptop computer with information and details regarding 9/11. And it was enough information to easily thwart or prevent the impending attacks. But when the FBI agents in charge of his arrest requested a search warrant to investigate his computer, top-level officials within the government denied the warrant. Why would the government officials deny the search of a computer of a suspected terrorist? FBI agents Colleen Rowell and Harry Samet together sent more than 100 requests to their superiors attempting to search Massao's, or whatever his name is, computer, and ring the alarm bells about this terrorist connection. For weeks prior, they had tried to interest FBI headquarters in Washington in Zacarias Massao, now known as the 20th hijacker, and they had begged FBI headquarters to give them permission to seek a search warrant of Massao's computer, and they were denied. In their frustration, they actually joked about how they must be infiltrated by agents of Osama bin Laden. Now, rumor has it that Osama bin Laden was actually a CIA member back in the day. I'm not going to get into that, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But why else would there why else would their work have been thwarted? You know what I'm saying? And a fundamental question that Time Magazine actually logically asked, then bizarrely refuses to pursue or answer. Now, also, I have a clip coming up about a senator that found the passport at the actual demolishing of the buildings and said it belonged to that guy. Now, that would explain to me how they got his passport in the first place to be able to do what they did. I'm kind of having like a connection interference. Hopefully everybody can hear me. But moving on, when you start looking at these facts right away, it's already systematically almost a conspiracy in its own to set up individuals, make these things even happen, maybe even help out the people with the $2.3 trillion to help conspire all this stuff go down. As you start pursuing even further into the 19 Islamic radicals, they claim to, this is the official story, 19 Islamic radicals armed with box cutters defeated our multi-trillion-dollar defense systems, all conspiring with a bearded man in the cave and Afghanistan with a cell phone. This sounds like a conspiracy theory to me, not what we have come up with over 12 to 13 years of private investigations. Now, some people want to get into a lot of discussions with a lot of particular things when it comes down to Afghanistan. Like, if you know anything about HARP, they were actually involved with doing business with oil companies discovering oil and mineral resources and veins that are like within particular parts of the earth that are not very easy to find. And they actually found a lithium vein worth $1 trillion over there. And if you research lithium, you'll see what that is used for. Now, that is a pretty interesting fact alone that is pretty crazy. Now, I'm not sure if they knew the lithium prior to going to Afghanistan, but again, these are just certain coincidences. Another thing to point out is the official story. No, I'm going to back it up to where you start looking at the fact that Al-Qaeda, okay? Now, Al-Qaeda was actually the ones who diminished the heroin business by keeping the poppy growers under control, bringing the fields, like burning the fields and stuff. Well, this is a direct hit on, I guess, basically all the international bankers and their money laundering teams. So we went in there, took over, and ran Al-Qaeda obviously out, because now they're the enemy that we actually created back in the day, which is another rabbit hole. But we ran them out of there, and now the heroin business is back up and booming. But when Al-Qaeda crushed the biz, we actually had a recession going on back in 2008. And so, because they were going in there, governing all the poppy fields and stuff. And this is another crazy fact on the table that people are ignoring. And, so when you start thinking about us going back over there, and all of a sudden heroin is back on the streets again, cheaper than ever, don't forget about the pill pandemic right after 9/11. Pills started coming back on the street like no other,
Yeah.
And then when you start looking at,
I used to get these prescription pills, for this arthritis. I got them Oxycontins and stuff, and I discovered about that it's hillbilly heroin, and a friend of mine, I found out, he was on them things. So, I think it's kind of odd that. They pump out these synthetic drugs and all that stuff, get people all hooked, and then they restrict the flow of them, and everybody then's going to heroin because it's cheaper. And so there we go. We've got a connection with the pharmaceuticals and the drug traffic.
Yep. Now we have understanding that with the government, with the FDA. Don't forget that the head of Monsanto is the head of the FDA. Okay, and. I believe, didn't he also have hand with the Bush administration as well before Obama? There's so much information, I tell you. Sometimes it's hard to keep it all in one little noggin, in one little spot. That's why I try to write everything down. But when you start looking at these facts of the heroin industry, the pills, pharmaceutical companies, I also think that this is a way to dumb down society to let these things happen around us so we're not smart enough to catch on. Now, what I'm trying to do is not necessarily paint a picture of all the things that did happen, is to give you facts so that if you never heard of this stuff before, you would go out and want to investigate more and become maybe somebody like that talking on here. And now all of a sudden, you're telling everybody else. And, and nobody, obviously our government is not going to turn themselves in. All right. They're not going to be like, oops, you're right. You got us. No, this is pretty crazy. This is heading down to a situation where our own people are under attack. Your own tax dollars are being robbed from you every day. And do we really sit back and wonder and just not care like that much? I mean, it's pretty scary when you start to look at the carelessness of society around us. Now, let's point out the official story on the Pentagon. All right. The plane, which was actually, I believe, 77. All right. Pilots have been interviewed and have stated that there is no possible way that a man with no experience, let alone being experienced, could not have possibly accomplished the supposed flight patterns of flight number 77 before it hit the Pentagon, claiming that the plane had flown in, completing a corkscrew turn over 5,000 G-force to successfully hit the Pentagon. Many attempts were made by experienced pilots and never once hit the target. And they were doing inside flight simulation machines, and also stated that any plane at that speed would have completely fallen apart. When you start thinking about also, the Pentagon, when you look at the hole in the Pentagon, okay? If you look at the pictures of the initial first picture of the Pentagon, it does not look like a plane hit it. There's no fuselage. There's no parts that hit it. There's nothing. I mean, we're talking about layers and layers of concrete that this plane supposedly hit, and you didn't even see a tail on the front yard. I mean, it was crazy. Then the FBI won't even release the footage of the most, one of the most surveilled buildings in the planet, let alone just the USA. I mean, this is the Pentagon. You don't think this thing has 1 million cameras on every single side, but the government won't even release any footage to the public? Pretty crazy, I mean, that's just another fact to go ahead and consider on this false flag operation, all right? Because that's exactly what it is, And so, then you start looking at building number 7. BBC talks about a third building falling when building World Trade Center number 7 was still standing right behind it for like a good 20 seconds. I mean, it really was like a minute. It was like for quite a while. So then, the hole in the Pentagon, like I said, you look at that thing, that is a pretty fishy situation, When you look at a 747 Boeing, a Boeing 747, it's like the width of something like, 6-lane highway or something like that? And then you look at the hole in that, it's like a 2-lane road, 6 months prior to 9/11, Silverstein purchased the World Trade Center, and he purchased an insurance policy covering the terrorist attacks, and ended up actually making out with $4.6 billion. And he's paid out, and that's what made Silverstein actually a part of the billionaire percentile, and actually had in his insurance policy under terrorist attacks. And I find that to be pretty coincidental too, as if, he buys it 6 months prior, has all these investments in multi-businesses, he knows all these things that's going to go around, and then before you know it, all of a sudden, building 7, all these buildings are going down, and he's a billionaire off it, and you got to follow the money. That's another thing too, Another thing, an eyewitness helping with the cleanup openly admitted that they found the boxes from the planes and were confiscated by the FBI. His name was Mike Malone, and he says he witnessed a 9/11 cover-up. He was working there 257 days. He was helping with the cleanup when they found it. And then, don't forget Bush, like I said, had known all this information. Now this is the crazy part. Donald Rumsfeld is like one of the individuals that needs to be pretty much high. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we were going to go lynch somebody, it'd be this guy. And I'll tell you why. And this is another thing that, kind of makes people, I know it seems like it's ancient history, but the thing is that once it becomes ancient history, it ends up like another JFK. It's just another whack job conspiracy that never gets solved. This is something that has enough holes to it that you can literally look at your government and laugh in their face and say, I'm sorry, but you ain't got us fooled. Like, if you're going to believe the official story, I hate to say it, after hearing all this information, there's no hope for you. Go away. And I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Donald Rumsfeld, top-ranking official in the Department of Defense, he was second to the president in military chain of command. Together with Bush, they exercised as the National Command Authority, known as the NCA, which includes joint control over the decision to launch a strategic nuclear weapons strike. And prior to 9/11, it was actually understood that in order to take down a commercial aircraft would have to be issued by the National Command Authority, the NCA. Bush was out of school, so he was removed from the NCA. And if you do your research on Bush, he's a little, I'm not going to say it, but he's a pony, okay? All right, now, the official narrative to the attacks, all right, is that President Bush did not have an open channel with Washington for communications, and he could not reach key officials for extended periods of time, and could not maintain contact with the White House shelter conference room. That's 5. 4, oh no, that was actually 3, this is 4. No contact with Vice President Cheney until 9:45 a.m., almost 10 minutes after Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. Number 5, he never contacted Defense Secretary Rumsfeld until a little after 10 a.m. So by default, this left Rumsfeld in command and protecting American people under the NCA. Now, he's supposed to basically put his life last, all right? So Rumsfeld is a big key person because he was in charge of the defense systems that was supposed to take place as soon as he heard any wind or information of a fight, okay, that you're under attack. Rumsfeld said this on 9/11 in his briefing. On the mornings of September 11, 2001, I was hosting a meeting for some members of Congress. Ironically, in the course of the conversation, I stressed how important it was for our country to be prepared for an unexpected attack. Now, if you were with your friends and you were pissed off at somebody, anybody listening here, and you said, and you go to somebody else and be like, man, I hate that guy. I kind of want to kill him. And that guy ends up dead. And I'm a cop, and I go and talk to your friend, and he says that, you're suspect number 1. There are no coincidences. Okay. So then moving on. Then he turns around. This is where it actually gets weird, right? So, ironically, basically, someone handed him a note right at that moment and said that a plane had hit the towers. This is where it gets weird. No urgent action. It goes like a deer in the headlights. And then he says, later, I was then in my office with a CIA briefer when I was told a second plane had hit the other tower. Shortly after 9:30 a.m., the Pentagon shook with an explosion of then an unknown origin. Okay. Why would he say that immediately? And then went outside, leaving his post, I might add, to determine what happened. All right. Now this is where it gets weirder. He says that I was not there long, apparently, because I am told I went back into the Pentagon with a crisis action team, which I believe it was the Club of Rome, kind of, right? By shortly before, all right? Shortly before, after 10 a.m. So by shortly before or after 10 a.m. That's his exact words. By shortly before or after 10 a.m. So he's being told he went back into the Pentagon. That's what he's being told for his, what a slippery snake, right? So then you start looking into another part with Donald Rumsfeld. And then he says this here at 9:05, 2 minutes after the plane, 175, hits the South Tower. It was generally understood by the U.S. officials that, in the infamous words of Chief White House Staff Andrew Card, America is under attack. Yet Rumsfeld, the only one in the loop, the only one to the issue to issue a defense attack or anything, the only one to do anything. He avoided the whole thing by going into his regular scheduled meeting with CIA briefer Denny Watson. Now, if this is not a slam pig in your face, huge information about how this seems as if it's trying to slip through the cracks and not really take any action to prevent this, I don't know what to tell you. Another thing is, basically, when you're looking at our government, you can't trust or depend on any elected officials to put this country before themselves. The money they get, the security of wealth and lifestyle. Thanks, Rumsfeld. You're awesome. I mean, seriously, that's what we're doing. We're paying these people to protect us, and they're sitting back in an office acting like this never even happened. So then it says, basically, he said that he pursued a meeting. Moments before the Pentagon got hit, Rumsfeld knew the towers were hit. He pursued a meeting with no attempt at anything. In fact, the DOD workers came in and told him the defense crisis management process is being activated. So he didn't even activate the crisis defense system. His own team did. Now, Rumsfeld insisted that he needed to make a couple more phone calls, and he proceeded with business as usual for a 9:30 briefing. So as Flight 77 supposedly approached the Pentagon at 8:30 a.m., our defense system sprang into action. Now, I want to tell you that the very spot that supposedly got bombed or hit or whatever happened at the Pentagon was exactly where they were investigating the $2.3 trillion that ended up missing. So, what do you think of that? Now, hold on a second. You got a question? How many activists celebrating Colorado, etc., are fighting for those in prison for plot offenses to be released? Exactly. Victimless crimes. If marijuana is now deemed legal today, that means anybody who was under that act or statute at the time shall be released. Carrying on. Now, during the time of the defense system springing into action, FAA orders ground stop control basically in New York City. NORAD launches F-15s to New York for air traffic control, and all traffic is to land at the nearest airport. Yet the chief executive in command and control over our entire military sat in his office giving no outward indication of his awareness of these activities and not even making any attempt to involve himself with them at all. So as the Pentagon gets hit, the most important man in the chain of command, next to the president, abandons his post, jeopardizing himself and the entire United States for a photo shoot on the front lawn. Go figure. And then he ends up helping out a couple of people there, I guess. And he ended up standing there for a while too. He was in a state of, I guess, supposed shock, but usually military people are trained to go through traumatic events. They're supposed to be soldiers. Now I got a clip I would like to play that I think I put together. But before I point out this individuals I should say, I want to point out how a normal police investigation works. Basically, you start narrowing down these people, and you basically start finding all the clues and facts and put them all together. Now, I've seen countless times witnesses claim that the suspects had stated weird comments that didn't make any sense until the crime had actually taken place. And these are not coincidences to me. So I created this clip to introduce an individual whose name is not always mentioned, L. Paul Bremer. And this, I think, is a good person to kind of send you off down the rabbit hole to do some more research for yourself. He actually created software and sold technologies to AIG, which is a huge insurance firm, and Marsh and McLennan. He also was the writer of what I believe was the Patriot Act. And also, he was a crisis risk thinker of, global events. And I heard that, the Bush administration ended up basically getting in there. So the floors that were hit on the North Tower, where Flight 11 hit, was the 93rd and 99th floors. Those particular floors were the offices of Marsh and McLennan, where I believe that these events were conspired to take place. Now, well, maybe not every single bit of it, but it sounds like it really was. Paul Bremer was chairman and CAO of the Crisis Consulting, and his office was right where the plane actually hit. And, fortunately, he wasn't actually on the plane. But I found out some very interesting information, too, to kind of, point a lot of this information to it. A project for the New American Century in the summer of 2000 called, it's basically known as PNAC, a neoconservative think tank riddled with a soon-to-be Bush administration officials and advisors, issued a document calling for the radical reconstruction of the U.S. government and military policy. It advocated that the massive expansion for defense spending and also the re-invasion of Iraq and military and economic securing of Afghanistan and Central Asia increased centralized power and increased funds for the CIA, FBI, and also the NSA. Among a slew of other policies that would in the near future be enacted upon their accession to power. So they knew that this document was going to take some time, which is a perfect example by, this prize-winning wolf in sheep's clothing, that comes right in. He's the best president that money could ever buy. He's got his finger on the fast-forward button. Now, PNAC members and signees to its policies documents include Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, Jeb Bush, Richard Pearl, John Bolton, Scooter Libby, Elliot Abrams, Richard Armitage, and William Bennett, so on and so forth. And these actually had their hands deep into private defense, oil, and multinational corporate industries, poised to make vast sums of money and secure huge tracts of power and influence as PNAC policy actually evolved in the U.S. government policy. And I believe it has. I believe that this is exactly what's going on. And I believe if we start looking at Operation Northwood, this has a lot of similarities to do with what is going on in the information that I gave you. Now, another coincidence I want to point out before we go into this clip is steel frame high-rises, buildings of 15 stories or more, have been common for more than 100 years. There have been hundreds of incidences involving severe fires in such buildings, and none have led to complete collapse, or even partial collapse of support columns. Recent examples of high-rise fires include the 1991 One Meridian Plaza fire in Philadelphia, which raged for 18 hours and gutted 8 floors of the 38-floor building. In the 1988 First Interstate Bank Building fire in Los Angeles, which burned out of control for 3.5 hours and gutted 4 floors of the 64-floor tower, both of these fires were far more severe than any fires seen in Building 7, but those buildings did not collapse. Those Los Angeles fires were described as producing no damage to the main structure members. And research indicates that even if a steel frame building were subjected to an impossible superfire, hundreds of degrees hotter and far more extensive than any fire ever observed in a real building, it would still not collapse. It says that basically when they did the testing on the steel before they built the World Trade Center, it said that the mid-1990s, British Steel and the Building Research Establishment performed a series of 6 experiments at Cardington to investigate the behavior of steel frame buildings. These experiments were conducted in a simulated 8-story building. Secondary steel beams were not protected despite the temperature of the steel beams reaching 800 to 900 Celsius, which is actually 1500 to 700 Fahrenheit. And 3 of the tests, well above the traditional assumed critical temperature of 600 Celsius, 1100 Fahrenheit, no collapse was observed in any of the 6 experiments. And another, perhaps stronger piece of evidence for controlled demolition of Building 7 is the speed at which the structure fell. It was a 576-foot tall building, and a conservative estimate of available video evidence shows that it fell at about 6.5 seconds. Now, somehow, the top of this building fell to the ground in a perfectly symmetrical downward trajectory with 47 floors of steel, concrete, and thousands of tons of upright standing debris in its path, providing huge amounts of vertical resistance at a virtually free fall speed, allegedly because of random fires on a few floors below. This is a physical and mathematical impossibility. Now, did you want to play that clip? Vincent?
Yeah, you ready?
Hello?
Yeah, you ready?
Yeah, go ahead. This is introducing an individual named Paul Bremer. And he was one of the individuals that actually ended up, he was CEO of risk management, political risk for Marshall McLennan, Marsh and McLennan, all right, and then he ended up basically, he's actually the person who found Saddam Hussein. He's governor of Iraq. He actually is the one being accused for all the missing money and tax dollars for rebuilding Iraq. So while talking to that, let's go ahead and play that clip real quick.
Hey, you got it fired up. I didn't get set up to fire anything out. You got it?
Oh, you never played it?
Yeah, I did play it, but I can't play it over this one. I don't have another computer set up to play it right now. Do you have it? Can you run it?
That's totally fine.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you
on my microphone, and yes.
Yeah, hey, Building 7, we know that Navy intelligence was in there, and it looks like they were targeted. They were investigating some of these scoundrels that have tucked themselves away so nicely within our government to rain down tyranny upon us here. Would you know anything about that? Those guys that were killed in there? Suppose.
What I do know is that it was the CIA in there. And to be honest with you, when I hear the information that they're talking about, these FBI agents coming clean and saying that they had gotten a laptop from this individual months before, for all we know, that could have been one of the buildings that was in there.
Now, there was,
this is a lot of stuff that...
Yeah, there's also a lot of... there were also... all the documentation on a lot of these banking fraud and all that stuff, all the investigation going on there, all that was lost. So all these cases were, then dropped. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff in there. And the mayor, they had their safety center right there, for command center and stuff. And so for some reason, instead of bunkering down, they chose to head off somewhere else. So.
I heard that they turned around, the CIA, the FBI, and Giuliani was all right tight. They almost acted as if they knew something was going on in some of the scenes that was publicly disclosed. Some people, I'm not saying, I'm not saying, look into everything and just assume what we say. I'm not asking you to believe what to think. I'm just asking people to engage in the process of thinking in general. There's too many holes that turn around and, that show up in the official story when you turn around and start looking at the anomalies behind everybody that is announced that was announcing the war on terror. When you look at Bush, there was just way too much fast-paced, quick stuff going on that people were allowing to happen. And now that we know the facts that we do, it should be publicly demanded that 9/11 is investigated wholeheartedly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, Dick. Hey, go ahead and shoot that out there in a 7-minute clip and fire that up, dude.
All right, I'll try to go ahead and get it out there. Give me one little second here. It's got no music in it, so it should be able to play quite well. If you guys can hear me quite well, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it up real quick. And here's this clip from this individual basically pointing out Jerry L. Paul Bremer. And this individual has a lot of ties into it. And I think if anybody's going to be investigated, it should be Donald Rumsfeld, this guy. And there was another senator, too, if you guys can hear it. Hold on 1 second. It's not popping up. Here we go. It's popping up. Beautiful. Oh, you know what? Hold on 1 second. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to have to unplug myself so you guys can hear this.
Okay.
On to become the governor of Iraq during the U.S. occupation. reputation, but he had some interesting connections that extended both previous to and...
Was that echoing?
Sounds good.
Or was that good?
Sounds good. Go for it.
Okay. All right, you let me know. Okay, here we go.
After the events of 9/11 itself, the first place that I'd like to start with our investigation of L. Paul Bremer is to simply note his appearance in the Project Constellation audio from Richard Andrew Grove, which set out Richard Grove's startling and, again, must-listen testimony, if you've never heard it before, about his time with Silverstream Technologies creating and selling software to massive insurance and financial companies like AIG and Marsh & McLennan.
Before I move on to some other important topics, I'd like to share with you some insight about the who, how, and why of September 11th. Without getting into the sordid details of why the towers are brought down through controlled demolition and making the connections between the associated risks and costs of asbestos removal and the infamous decision made by the terrorists to take a money-losing operation and turn it into a money-making, never-ending war. First, I would note that L. Paul Jerry Bremer, who was in charge of the coalition reconstruction element of the post-9/11 Hegelian plan being carried out in Iraq, used to work for Heinz Kissinger, better known as Public Opinion. Bremer was also the one that announced the capture of Saddam Hussein, lucky guy, and was responsible for approximately $10 billion of unaccounted for Iraq reconstruction money, lucky guy, which was donated by way of U.S. taxpayers' blood, sweat, and tears, lucky guy. In fact, I've seen the accounting protocols, and rather lack thereof, that went on in Iraq. It's a complete fraud to the American taxpayer. Open, unguarded, flatbed trucks with bricks of billions of U.S. dollars out in the open, driving around without anyone keeping track of where they're going or who was receiving the money. But here's what you probably don't know. L. Paul Jerry Bremer's last gig before capitalizing on the Iraq War was at Marsh & McLennan, where Jerry was the CEO of Marsh's Risk Management Collective. You know, it's interesting that no one else has noticed that Marsh is at the heart of 9/11, and despite being woven into almost every aspect of the event, Marsh isn't involved in any of it.
That's right, as Richard Grove indicates, Paul Bremer at the time of 9/11 was the CEO of Political Risk for Marsh & McLennan, the world's largest professional services risk management and insurance brokerage firm, which was interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, of course, because Paul Bremer, for the succeeding few years before the 9/11 attack, had been one of the country's largest proponents of the terror threats to the United States homeland. And this comes from his time as one of the people on the bipartisan commission, the National Commission on Terrorism, a blue ribbon panel that was put together by Congress in 1999.
So what he's basically talking about is this blue ribbon he wrote out in 1990 or whatever. Hold on one second here. Let me go ahead and stop that real quick and just let you know what's going on. Because I guess it sounds horrible, and I don't want you guys to be all upset. So this is what he said. He says, what they'll do is stagger along until there's a major incident, and then suddenly say, oh my God, shouldn't we be organized to deal with this kind of stuff? And then shortly after that, the planes flew into the towers, and we were under attack, and there was this huge terrorist attack. And so this individual is the one who actually wrote out the crisis report and of what to do if we are under attack. And I believe that he also wrote what would happen and how to control people if there was an attack, if you know what I'm saying. So when you start, well, I wasn't able to play the clip, through Skype or anything like that. It was basically through my little microphone. I thought it was going to go good, but no, it didn't. So, anywho, going back. So, when you look at him, he was in charge to rebuild Iraq post 9/11. He ended up basically robbing tons of money from all the taxpayers of America that actually was to help rebuild Iraq. And then supposedly he got Saddam Hussein, who actually, if you look at the history of Saddam Hussein, we at one time were helping him out. It was okay with him stopping terrorists and all this other stuff. And then before you know it, it started getting all crazy. What's going on in the chat room? Are you still there, Vince?
Yeah, I'm here. Trying to get another guest. I don't have phone lines, so I'm trying to get her into Skype. I got a message here.
I think ultimately, if enough people look at that 9/11 is an inside job, I definitely agree with what listeners said. I prefer to look forward. I think, to sit there and start looking at the fundamentals of what had happened, and, we can go over this a million times. It's what can we do to prevent the things that are obviously happening and taking away our freedoms? How can we get a hold of the reins of this wild horse running, rampant? And, this big war machine is getting a little out of control, and it's going as far as just about everything you can possibly think of. So, I just wanted to basically throw that out there, and I think some people should check it out, especially children, to grow up in a time thinking that, they never knew of a time of no war. They don't even know why we're really at war. If they do, they're being lied to, and that already is bad enough. So, I'm just throwing it out there and trying to help you out too, and bring awareness to your fellow fans too. Because a lot of people can go and find the information of how the towers fell, what's going on, but pointing fingers at specific people, I think, is pretty important, especially as we're going to move forward on a proper investigation and bringing back our Constitution and also extinguishing the NDAA Act, which throws out the, due process in our country. So I would totally just, do away with what's going on right now. People need to start standing up, start being aware of their country and how it's falling apart, and take stand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. The day and age that we're living in, I think most people are, most people have to see. They've got to have an understanding that things aren't right. And it's really is a time that we take a critical look at this system. This machine that grinds us up and spits us out. I just see on Facebook a friend from school just died, and that's what the system does. I don't know why or how she died, but I expect the petrochemical industry probably had a whole lot to do with it, and that's probably what's killing most of the people in the world today. And it's all by purpose and design. It's all tied together, and I
want to say something, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say something for Kevin Blanch, because I love that guy, man. And sometimes I could almost feel his words when he says it. He's upset, man, and he's upset at this dogmatic, retarded. I'm not going to say it. I could care less attitude of Americans. You throw 9/11 at them, you throw Fukushima. People will probably eat rat poison willingly if they you know what? Prime example, they sell that spice stuff, killing people all around the world, but yet people are still smoking it. They're still looking for it. I mean, it's just crazy how people can know that they're going to go kill themselves and just choose not to care one bit. This continues down this vicious cycle, And with Kevin Blanch, he wrote on, he's like, he put it perfectly, and I can feel what he said. He's like, I heard a rumor Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. I heard a rumor Fox News said the Dow was going under 1,000. And I hear a rumor gold was going to 5,000. I hear a rumor Osama bin Laden caused 9/11. I heard facts coming from Kevin Blanch about at least 4 meltdowns over 3 years ago. But I'm too fucking stupid to know the difference between rumor or a fact. And then I think I will go back to sleep and like my gold bars and my guns and watch CNN or Fox News and CNN, and then he ended it out. And I was like, I want to put something of what I had thought of today about this. In my life, whenever I get certain information, I always feel like, I got to find the answers and the solutions to do something about it. In life, we want to give other people the same information, hoping that they understand or think the same way or know just as much as we do in certain occasions. And then when they don't, it's upsetting to the person who actually does care and does think of these solutions. So what I want to say out there to the people that are listening, the leaders cannot be made. They are born this way. You know what I'm saying? Leaders are the individuals that hear information, take it right in. They don't get emotional over it. They don't get irrational. They totally logically put it through their brain and then figure out what to do. They're the type of people that when the world goes to shit in the handbasket, all right, those are the guys that you run into asking for questions. And whoever's listening, if you're that guy in a general group or setting, take more stand, be the true leader of information in every occasion that's necessary because, obviously we're surrounded by some blind, meek people. And, it does not take a world to change the problems. It takes only a small percentage, but it's when the percentage is stronger than ever, stronger than ever, diligent, nonstop, then the word, the message will have no choice but to be heard. And so, when it comes down to Fukushima, 9/11, we're living in a world that cover-ups all around us. It's all a conspiracy now. You know what I'm saying? So you want to sit there and look at 9/11 all day. I tell you what, 9/11 is the stem of all the problems that we have going on and to be coming soon, in this country. And, that's definitely a fact right there.
Yeah. Hey, so Judas, you've been doing radio for how long now? Quite a while. You're coming up over here to.
Yeah, I've been doing it about a year and a half.
Right on. So you're going to be coming here to UCY, Subliminal Sanity. I've listened to quite a bit of your stuff.
Yep.
You really do a good job, man. You present a good case. Really, really good job. So be proud to have me over here. And, we do have lines forward. Thanks, man. Not like you said.
Thanks for having me on. I hope everybody tugs.
Well, I'm gonna let you close out these last 4 minutes, and I'm gonna go get my next guest, PM Beers. Patty's gonna be joining me. She's an activist. She's out there live streaming all the time, and she's gonna talk about that, why everybody should be live streaming. So, hey, take these next 3 minutes out, brother, and let me go tell her to give me a ring-a-ding right here. Okay, bro?
Absolutely, brother. I'm going to continue listening. Like I said, anybody listening, Subliminal Sanity, we're going to be Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, UCY.TV. We're the best, I tell you. You want to get the real news, you come here. You want free thinking, you want people to open up your consciousness, or at least get the gears, start to break away the rust, So I just wanted to throw it out there. I know you got things that you got going on, people waiting on you. I just wanted to say thanks a lot. And anybody listening, totally, tune in. And I hope you guys enjoyed the information that I had to offer to at least get the ball rolling when it comes down to investigating for yourself. And thanks again, Vince. You're the man.
Hey, right on, dude. So you're going to be on Sunday night. My bad. I thought you was going to be following Double Cross on Thursday night. So it's changed. And I think.
Yeah, it's on Thursday nights. Sunday nights. It was going to be Thursday nights, but I had to change it to Sunday nights because basically I got a new job and I got a kid and I think the available time that you guys had was not. I needed to go at 8, and Ocelli is at 8, so I wasn't able to go on at that time.
Right on. Hey, thanks again, Judas. Have a good one, brother. And listen, we got PM Beers on with us.
I'll see you around.
All right, dude. Hey, Patty, how you doing?
Yes, sir.
Let me close your door.
Okay, here we go. And Patty, hey, let me remind you, I'm on satellite uplink here, so we've got about a 5-second delay. So just realize that there will be a pause, and that's your cue to speak now. And unpause. You should be connecting by now. Go ahead, Patty. Tell us what you do and where we can find you at. Maybe.
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
Okay. I've got a little delay here from the satellite uplink, so just be aware of that. It's probably about 5 seconds by the time I stop talking that you get this. I'll go and or something like that and let you know it's your turn. But anyways, listen. Hey, tell everybody who you are, what you do. I know you're fantastic. I met you out at the Bundy Ranch in Bunkerville, and hey, you're one of my heroes. You get my double thumbs up for best in being out there. The alternative media, really bringing the truth. You do such a fantastic job. Can't understand how. I think we might be having a problem on the other end. Patty? Bummer. Well, okay, Patty. I think we're having problems. Hey, Dave. Let me go ahead and just bump you on up in here. If you're ready, I'll add you in to Skype here. Well, dadgum. Okay, let me give me just a second. I'll tell Patty in the chat box here. Let me. Yeah, I'm gonna try her by Skype and by Skype. Let me actually try that first. All right. Pardon me for the interruption. Let me see if I can do this ad here. Come on. Let me try you, Patty. And let me go back over here and hang up on you on the phone. Doggone it. Oh. Okay. Shoot. I'm gonna go get Dave. Well. Okay. Okay, I hope you're ready, Dave. I want to add you to the call. And this thing is overfeeding. I can't hang it up. Okay, hold on. I'm going to hang up on and call right back in. I'm going to see if I can cut this sound out. Okay, I'm back. Now, let me go get Dave. Thanks, Patty. We're gonna have to try again. I hope Dave's calling and got you. All right, hey, Dave. I believe I've got you here. How you doing, brother? Stand by, y'all. Stand by. You ain't gonna move and hold up. Need to lift her. Dave? I think he's chomping up to the mic. Dave, Minor Dave, Keeper of the Republic. You may not be where you're on. Dadgummit.
Okay.
Okay, Dave, you're on. He's typing to me probably here.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
For some reason, I can't do something.
Okay. Well, we got you live here. We're rolling. So
can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're way too loud.
I'm way too loud.
Yeah, that's better.
I'll turn you down.
There you go. Okay. Now I've lost you all together. Wait, I'm going to try to bring you I think this is Patty again. Hey, Patty. Do I have you in there now?
Hello.
Hear me now?
Okay. Dave, stand by just a second. Mute up, would you please? Sorry about, we got some technos here. Patty, do we have you? Yeah. Okay, great. Sorry about that, Dave. Can you stand by with me and let me run with Patty here for about 15 minutes, and we'll bring you back in. If you can just stand by on mute. And thanks for coming in there with me. Hi, Patty. Glad to have you I guess you couldn't hear all the great words I said about you, how you're my hero, and you're right up there with 2 thumbs up from me for doing such a great job. We met out in Bunkerville at the Bundy Ranch, and you do a great job. You do live streaming. You're very much into activism and out there on the front lines all the time. So I really appreciate you. I'm going to go grab your links again and pop them back in over here in the chat and tell everybody where we can find you. And so, hey, tell us what you do out there and what got you started.
What I do, what I do a lot of social media, like graphics and graphic arts, and I do a lot of tweeting and Facebook and stuff, just letting people know what's going on with activism in Southern California. But probably what people know me most for is for live streaming. So I go to activist actions, events, protests, and I do a live broadcast so that you can see what's actually going on. I'm hoping right now to get to Salinas. I'm trying to find a ride to Salinas because there's nobody up there live streaming, and a friend of mine wants to go up there and tweet because there's not a lot of independent media coverage right now. So that's something I want to do. But yeah, I was there at Bundy Ranch, and thank goodness because there's so much misinformation about it.
Absolutely. And now going on up there in Salinas, there was some protest. What was the protest originally? And there was somebody killed protesting police brutality up there?
Yeah, I'm not sure the whole story. At least one person was killed. Oh, it was one guy, he was killed by the cops. They said he had garden shears, but if you're watching the videos, you don't see any garden shears. It looks like the guy's trying to walk away from the cops. He doesn't look like he's evacuating the cops, and they just killed him. And, and it makes you wonder, like, it's caught in video, and, like, isn't there a more humane way to deal with the situation, They don't know, maybe that man needs help. They don't really know, and it's just really disgusting now that, now that we do have independent media, now that we do have, like, everyone's walking around with cell phones in their pocket. I personally think everyone should be live streaming, and I think everyone should go to Ustream.tv and get a live stream account and download the Ustream app on your phone and start live streaming, because that way the cops can't destroy your video. Absolutely. It's very important that we hold an accountability for these people that are supposed to be looking out for our better good. And it's a challenge sometimes. I mean, to prove something. That guy that was killed in New Mexico, man, Wow. But we do have stories of good cops, too, sometimes. So, we need to not try to isolate. Yeah, I think if they come in the car, you have to film them, always. Yeah. They should always be filmed at all times. I think mostly, cops, they're doing it because they want to do the right thing. And then they get involved with that thin blue line thing. And so if we can coach people over through whatever type of organizations, and I think it's good to, share that also. But like you said, live streaming is very important. And so you have an account at Ustream TV, and tell us how that works. How do you do it? You got to have some kind of special app or something like that. Well, Ustream is pretty simple. I recommend that people use Ustream because it's technically very easy to do. You can just go. It's the easiest way to do it is go on a computer, set up an account on Ustream.tv. They're going to ask you for a username. Just pick something easy, short, easy to spell. It's really easy to sign up, and then if you have a smartphone, go on your smartphone and download the app. And that's just about technically all you really need to know. It's really super easy. And then after you're done recording, it will automatically upload onto the internet. You don't even have to hit save. I was arrested. I was live streaming when I was arrested. The cops grabbed my phone. They turned it off, and my arrest was automatically uploaded. So even though the cops had my phone, they could have broke my phone. They could have taken my chip out, but they can't destroy that evidence of that video because it's already uploaded automatically. And it's just technically that easy. Well, that is pretty simple. What got you started? trouble hearing again.
Sorry, yeah, we have a delay too, about 5 seconds because of satellite uplink. So, hey, Missy, in chat. Actually, what got you started really as an activist? And you've moved into really the forefront of the media because it's people like you that are out there that are really making sure that the people have the right information. So tell me about what got you started.
What did you get me started?
Yeah, what got you started?
Was that a question?
Yeah, what got you started into being an activist?
I was inspired to start just being my own media from the Occupy movement. I was involved with Occupy Los Angeles, and I was, I think, being the news story is the only way that you really, really know for sure that the TV is lying to you. And they were ignoring it for like weeks. They were just ignoring the whole story. And then they would come and they would finally start covering the story, and then they start lying about it. And it's the same thing with the Bundy Ranch story. Like practically every story I've seen, even from independent journalists, they're not telling you the truth. And the only way you could really get the truth is go there and do a live stream. Or, I'm sure that you're telling the truth about it too, but you were there. So you really have to be there to tell the truth about it. And when you're doing a live stream, I can tell you all the lies with my mouth, but your eyes are seeing the truth. So yeah, it was just being that news story and being lied about is what really inspired me to be the media. And I think everyone needs to be the media, and we need to control we need to be the new media, because now we see that mainstream media is just lies, and we see through the veil. We see, like, the veil is lifting, and we can see the truth now, and the only way that we're going to keep seeing the truth is that everyone just take this new printing press, this new technology that we have in our pocket, and use it.
Isn't that great? Yeah. You can't bust the press.
This is our printing press. This printing press that we have now is going to lead to the next revolution. The first revolution in the century happened after the printing press, and the revolution of Christianity happened when the Christians broke off from the Catholics. That happened because of the printing press. And now we have an even better printing press right in our pocket. So, yay, revolution.
Yeah, we are the media, right? Each and every one of us. And, you are really good proof that, you're I'm not trying to, I hope this didn't come across wrong, but you're nobody special. You're just a person, and you decided to pick up and stand as witness, right? And you struggle with finances. Some people help you out along the way and stuff. So, you're financing this basically with the help of others, but mainly yourself. I imagine you spend most of your resources into doing what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I'm trying to do is amplify the voice of the people. So I'm not really putting forth my opinion so much. Especially you can see that from Bundy Ranch. I don't agree with everything that happened at Bundy Ranch, but I went there to amplify the voice of those people. And just because I don't agree with everything they say doesn't mean that their voice doesn't need to be amplified too, because if I don't do it, who else is going to do it?
I've noticed with people like you, myself, with Jason Patrick, and with Thomas Levac. I have a hard time with this last name. Sorry, Tom. Well, we were really out there and really going for, the wholeness of it. Now, we had, especially after Mr. Bundy had made his comments about black folks, he took a big hit, and then all the press was out there then, boy, and they were, some questions asked, and perhaps they were baiting, trying to bait them into. But, my opinion is there's no such thing as a bad question. And I want to point out a couple of people, Pete and Louie. I think they jumped on Antonio there from Channel 3. And I think that's a really bad move, trying to shout down the mainstream media. And all it does is it just makes a person look like an idiot. So, hey, Antonio interviewed me for Channel 3. It went out. he didn't give everything I said, but the point was there, that, Mr. Bundy wasn't being racist. It's just, how words are used in a era of time or a region. And, to say he's racist, no. Is he bigoted? Well, perhaps he has some bigoted understanding, but you got to figure, when people are isolated, they have less understanding of, people that aren't around them. So, he's pondering, is what he was doing, pondering about the, the servitude, the slavery that we all exist in today, and also those that black folks, the institution that they were finally released from. Nobody agrees with slavery, I'm pretty certain. Anyways, I'm glad there are people like us out there and getting the truth. Pretty neat. That was my first time I'd ever been out to anything like that, and it was really neat. And I kind of felt like, in a sense, that I was bona fide in a sense, meeting you guys as my peers. It was really great, and it gave me a lot to look up to aspire to, and I really do appreciate meeting you and knowing you and all that you're doing, Patty.
Thanks. It was crazy the way that the mainstream media reacted to the President Bundy statements. There was for the day. He was doing press conferences every day, and the one day when he made those controversial words, and Jason Patrick was the only one who showed up for the press conference. And then after it got out into the media, there was 10 really big mainstream media cameras there, and they came to get this racism story, and they didn't get this story. And then none of them asked any questions about racism afterwards. Like, they didn't directly ask Mr. Bundy any questions, but then afterwards, after the press conference was over, there was a guy named Dan from CNN, and he was provoking elderly veterans, trying to get them angry and trying to push them on the race issue. And the men who, the people who were there, who he was trying to provoke, they only want to talk about the Constitution, and that's the one thing that we can really take away from Bundy Ranch, is that the people at Bundy Ranch, the one thing that they care about the most is Constitution. And it was really trying to see, like, this guy from CNN, he was really, really trying to piss people off, really trying to provoke people, to try to get them to, like, say ugly things to the camera. And I ended up chasing him out of there, and I don't think I've ever released that video, but thanks for reminding me about it.
Yeah. So where are you at now, and what's your plans to where are you headed to next?
Well, I'm here back in East Los Angeles, and tomorrow I'll be planning for March Against Monsanto. There's going to be a big event in Hollywood at Plumber Park on Saturday, and it's going to focus mostly on gardening and community and everybody growing their own food so we don't have to eat that crap.
Hey, you know Nick Barnaby down there, and I'm seeing your post right now. Nick Barnaby likes it too. That's funny. I'm just fixing to talk about him, and there he is. So, you know Nick. Have you guys been together personally down, I bet, down in San Diego, right?
I'm having trouble hearing you again.
Sorry. So you know Nick Barnaby down in San Diego, right?
Yeah, I know Nick, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, when I shot you the number, the call-in number, you go, what, the Annual Media? And I said, yeah, me and Nick are on the same network. So, yeah, a lot of great folks here at UCY, and I hope you'll find your way back over here and for listening in, and really appreciate having you on, Patty, and look forward to seeing you the next time, wherever that may be.
Sure.
Okay. Hey, I'll talk to you later, and I'm going to bring Dave Everett. We're going to discuss some mining laws and how some of the agencies like the BLM affect our relationship with the land. So thanks again. PM Beers, I dropped her links in chat, and find her on Ustream. just do a search for PM Beers, and PM and then BEERS, and you'll find her coming up everywhere. Thanks again, Patty. Hey, David, welcome aboard.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Patty. Bye-bye. Bye. See you. Hello, David. This is Keeper of the Republic, Minor Dave. Roaring Bear. Standing by.
There we go. I was having a fun meeting. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, good to have you with me. Hey, Dave has a YouTube channel, man. He does a lot of good stuff there. A lot of sharing. I think a lot of the views that I get, that I post. Yeah, I think a lot of the shares I've got on videos I posted is directly related to you having shared them, and really appreciate that. So you're going to come on. I'm scrolling down here to get to the information I posted. Now, I only posted your YouTube user channel, so if you have some more links after you and I are done talking, you can drop it to me in chat box, and I'll share them and add them.
I posted them on my Facebook page.
Okay. Yeah, I did share a link there.
So what I want.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna turn it to you, and I'm gonna step out to the potty and be right back. So go ahead and tell us about yourself.
All right.
What brought you into what you're doing, and just give us your story, David. Thanks for coming on, brother.
All right, that's good. Where I'm going to start with is not so much, I'm going to cover the mining law, but first I'm going to give you a little bit of history. On June 14th, 2014, it'll be the 238th year since the anniversary date of when the Continental Congress first started debating the Declaration of Independence, which in that year, in December and January of 1776, we had the Battle of Trenton, two major victories for the establishment, eventually, for a birth of a nation called the Republic of the United States, paid for in blood. So, as I have my namesake, Private David Everest, that was in the Connecticut militia, assigned to George Washington's Continental Army. You can look it up. It's on Google. You can find it anywhere. You can, as you look at that history, they asked my namesake a question: is there anything you regret over the Battle of Trenton and Princeton? And he said the 62 lives that froze to death crossing the river. He was 82 years old when he said that. So I have a duty, as a keeper of the Republic, I'm going to speak of duties of trust and the government's duties of trust, where they've breached them. Starting with, here in the West, when they granted, in 1866, Hard Rock, 1870, Placer. And Placer's a little bit harder to determine because a lot could be here and a little bit could be here. And usually Placer is where you're trying to track to the Hard Rock, because where you find that gold, you'll find it up from it, usually up on a landmass where my claim is perfect, because it falls, it's what they call an alluvial deposit, sitting on, it's Placer sitting on top of a major three fault lines, the Jurassic, and the Tertiary, and all really close to each other. The Jurassic was estimated the oldest of all of them, and then 50 million years after that, we got the Jurassic period. The Tertiary period was about 2 million years ago, so this is at one time, a highly volcanic place, because there were islands out here. This was known as islands, and when we had the Pacific Ocean shove in underneath the northern plate, it lifted the whole continent, and it pushed stuff that was below ocean water above ground. And it created the continent here in Oregon, or in the Siskiyou Mountain Range. It's also known as the Siskiyou Mountain Range. It's also known as part of the Sierra Mountain Range, because that's where it comes from when these mountains were formed, because it's an isthmus. It comes out in Crescent City. That's why they have the weather that they do, because it's hot inland and it's cold at the coast. And that's why in the summertime it almost rains there every day. So that gives you a little bit of the geological history. Now, I acquired my claim in 2006, which I filed on, and I didn't really have any problems through that summer until about November, when they tried to get me to sign a contract with them. And I knew enough about contract law that what they handed me, I wouldn't sign, because it was just written like almost on a cocktail napkin. They could have altered it in any way, shape, or form, and they would have had my signature to forge. I wasn't going to allow that. Plus, because Reagan passed the Paper Duck Redemption Act, if they had a form for me to fill out and they had an OMB number, I'd be happy to fill it out. But if they didn't, and they still wanted me to fill it out, they could pay for the time for me to hire the person to fill it out. And that's the rules, that's the law, that's the regulation. If they're requiring you to fill out paperwork that there's no OMB number, that's where I started at, because I started in the regulations because I didn't know any better. I was introduced to Southwest Mining District, and where I started learning the mining law, and they pointed me in the right direction. And I already knew about trust law. When I figured it out, this was a grant and it was a duty of trust. You have to perform. It's not what your job is. I don't care what your job is. It's not what your job is. It's what your duties are to perform as required based on the trust. And the BLM is the trustee. They even have their own administrative court, where if I was doing something wrong, the Forest Service should have turned it over to the BLM. The BLM would have turned it over to the county sheriff. The county sheriff would have investigated it, wrote up a report, submitted it to BLM. And then if the sheriff's report said I was, and then the BLM would do, if they wanted to, they could conduct an assessment on whether it's really a mineral claim. They don't have the funding for that, but if they did do that, and they determined there was enough mineral there, and not just gold, all the minerals that I have there that I haven't completely identified, if they identify them, they have to issue patent. And what they like us to do is pay. We have to buy two tests. We have to buy ours for security, and then we have to pay for one for them, and then they pay for one, and they compare all three. And we each get a sample out of each sample with chain of evidence. And so the BLM never did that. The BLM never even bothered me, but they didn't fulfill their duties of trust. And so now I've given you a little background, because I was charged with criminal charges, and they put me in the Jackson County Jail for 30 days. And when I was first in the jail, I asked the jailer what I was in there for. And the clown officer, I don't know his name, but he was a real clown, because I had he said, you have a federal felony hold for immigration status. And I said, really? What are they going to do? Everybody here knows I was born in Hawthorne, California. They're going to deport me to Hawthorne, California? I think I'll fight extradition. And he got really snotty with me, but he ran off. And then later on, I asked another cop, and he said, "Oh no, it's not immigration. It's a federal felony hold, but they won't tell us what it's for." And it took about 3 weeks for me to get, while I was in jail, to get my attorney to get me the records to the lieutenant to a lieutenant in charge that they could send an email to and send him a copy of my conviction that I was convicted of a misdemeanor, not a federal felony at all. And so that was so the jail wouldn't matrix me out, because if they would have put me in there as a misdemeanor, another federal court order would, because it's not a person-to-person crime, I would have been released probably after being booked. So I was held 29 days. I was cut 8 hours loose. And the reason why this is 10 days before I was to be released, the Department of Justice was supposed to send somebody in and go over my release date. It takes 10 days for him to submit that work. They never did that. And so on the what I thought was the 30th day, it was actually the 29th day, they found out that they goofed up because, see, they were hiding me. The county never posted my mugshot on their internet website as being in there and being charged with anything or being convicted with anything against state law. They have 72 hours to post it. It still to this day shows I was never in their jail. I'd like to have that question answered. Why was I in their jail and they never put the records? That should be somebody ask Sheriff Winters about. Oh, on the 18th day I was in jail, a man named Bradley escaped from the county jail, and I'm going to say between 9 and 10 at night, I was in the day room of the South Dorm, and I said to everybody, I said, we're being surrounded by the Medford police. And all the people go, what do you mean? I said, I can hear their sirens. And the only time that happens is if somebody escaped. And so I went to my bed because I figured it was the safest place to be. And everybody stayed in the dorm. And they didn't shut the lights out until 1 o'clock in the morning. And because we couldn't see in the rec room because it was right across from our dorm, because they had blinders up. That's why they couldn't see the one guy escape, because they put 3 guys in. One guy stood on his shoulders, and they had number 10 rebar steel cage up there. And for my power utility industry work, the only way to cut that is with some really heavy duty ratchet cutters. And when I talked to a deputy, I don't remember his name, he said to me and others, inmates, that it was bolt like type cutters. And I said, you mean ratchet cutters? And he wouldn't answer that. But I would say that that escape, because he was under 23-hour day lockdown, they were to give him rec time. But at 9 o'clock at night, this time of year, it was pitch dark, and they didn't really have good lighting in the rec room because it's really open sky to the 3rd floor. So the guy cut his way out, got up on the roof, jumped to a tree, and then got to the bottom limb and jumped 50 feet, probably off to a waiting car. And of course, he's back in jail going on trial for the bank robbery he committed. So hats off to the marshals for finding him. But then, now, after I got out, they probably figured I'd go away, but I didn't. I started filing all kinds of legal notices, and eventually I tied everything up and I filed a case in U.S. District Court here. I knew they didn't have jurisdiction because the court that does have jurisdiction is called the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. And to extrapolate to get jurisdiction in there, because other minors have filed directly with that court, and the court, they were filing them under claims, but a claims has got a little bit higher standard. You got to start off with the tort and lead it into a claims. by, once the court says, make your argument for our jurisdiction, well, I made my argument for jurisdiction, and then I gave them, scholarly written briefs written from Yale, Berkeley, Davis, all over the place. They're on the internet, they're open source, they're free to use. And then I wrote one page tying all the trust law together, and I did it as a motion. And then the defendants in this case, or the defendant, however you want to call them, there's a technical term I won't get into because it's really hard for me to pronounce it because it's a big Latin word. But here we go. We have the trust law, so I tied that up because I had to show the grant, and I was limited on funds, and I had to break it up. Then I filed a week later, and I got some more money. I filed the grant, the covenants of the trust, and I showed that the BLM is really the trustee, and so that makes the Inspector General the trustee. So I have a motion in to appoint the Inspector General. Well, then it was in the those guys defending this as an appeal had to file a notice of appearance. In civil terms, that's the same as an arraignment. Your attorney can do it for you. Or if you're representing yourself, you can do it yourself. And there's forms for that. It's very simple. It's straightforward. They give you all the rules, and they give you pro se rules. And the standard is different if you're not a bar member. And so as we progress, I got a notice from the attorney, one of the attorneys. Well, then there was a phone number there, so I called her, and she told me that day they were assigning a different attorney, and she was withdrawing. And I said, oh, and she gave me his name and his phone number. So I called him the next morning and talked to him, and then I got a copy of that, and then I put a question to him. I said, well, you're representing the Forest Service. Who's representing the U.S. Justice Department? Who's representing the U.S. Attorney's Office? Who's representing the BLM? Because they haven't filed their notice of appearances, and I think their 14 days is up. And then he came back 3 days later and said he was representing all the parties except Judge Pinner, Magistrate Clark, because they're an executive branch, they have to represent themselves. So they didn't file their 14 days. I filed a notice of a motion of default with the court, and at the same time, I filed a motion for separation of this one attorney defending all these parties, because each one of these agencies has different rules and regulations governing them, and there's a conflict of interest for him to represent the agriculture and the BLM and represent Mr. Eric Holder because he's a named defendant. Now, he has a government side attorney that can represent him, but then he's got to get a private attorney for his private side, because I'm suing him too personally, because I've stripped him of his immunity. And so that hasn't been filed. So there's lots of mistakes here. And in a few days, last week, I got a call from this lady that was on there. He made another mistake. He was supposed to withdraw her as being involved in this case, and she asked me if I objected, and I said, no, I don't object to you because you were supposed to be gone 2 or 3 weeks ago. So he's made a lot of mistakes, and I said, like he can represent all these parties and agencies, and she said, no, I've seen your motion. You should be hearing from the court soon. And she thanked me for releasing her as attorney of a record. Well, the reason why she thanked me is she got rid of this case because she wouldn't do what they told her to do. She actually did the right thing. She wouldn't continue the fraud. But because she's a federal employee, she can't go against it. So she got herself withdrawn. And I consider her very smart, very smart cookie, and I'd rather not have the smart cookie coming after me. And so that person, my hat's off to, and she knows who she is. I'm not going to mention her name.
Right on, Dave.
And so now,
go ahead.
Much?
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I got one more guest coming up, and I'll let you finish out. I wanted to thank you for coming on, and thanks for all the hard work you're doing. Miner Dave, find him on Facebook, Roaring Bear.
I'd like to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like you to come and print me and subscribe to my channel and go to Google Plus, David Everest, 279. Miner Dave is my UL number for Google Plus. And I would like to give a plug to Apple Road Times. They've posted my stuff. Their website, if it's going to continue, could use the views. And it's local news of the rural area I'm from. So please go look at it. And go under Miner Dave on that. You'll find my links.
Awesome. Thanks again, brother.
Have a good night.
Hey, yeah, thanks, brother. You're going to have to come back on.
Call me later, Vince.
I will. Hey, I'll talk to you. And, we're coming up at about 18 minutes left in the broadcast. And y'all stay tuned for Double Crossed Radio. Looks like a pretty interesting show coming up here.
Send me a copy of this to YouTube. I'll post it.
Okay, yeah, this will archive to MP3 as soon as the show's over. And here in a few hours, it'll go on up to YouTube, and I'll post it on over to you. So thanks again, Dave.
To all a good night. Have a heavenly slumber.
Aha, thanks again. Yeah. And again, stay tuned. Double Cross follows. Fritz Spingmeyer returns to discuss current events, New World history, and recent revelations from the Illuminati hierarchy. Stay tuned tonight, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time with... I don't know if David will be on there, but during Chuck, I'm certain. And always great radio. Find more good stuff here on UCY also. Talking about Nick Barnaby and his march against Monsanto. A lot of great hosts. So anyways, here I am out in the hills of Arizona. And I guess the only difference between being an Arkansas hillbilly and an Arizona hillbilly is... maybe the humor just a little drier, like the weather. I'm not sure. But anyways, so look, this is a friend of mine here, and we were collaborating on a few things. I posted a video up, a song that he did. This is a rough cut, and we've got some equipment. We're going to be doing some more songs, and I'll be creating another YouTube channel for that music. I am not kidding you, lots of good music. He's a very interesting person, and intellectually challenging. We'll have some different views on some things, but I do personally like to question my own notions. But anyways, this is Wiley Freeman. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Where's the microphone here?
It's right in front of you.
Okay. Yeah, doing good. Hey, it's really great having you hang out here with me. We're up here in White Hills, Arizona, and Vince is honored me with coming up here and hanging out, and we are doing some things together. I've written music over the years, and I got a lot of songs, just a whole boatload of them, and heck, I'm over 60. I think that somebody says if you're over 60, you can't figure nothing out on the computer. Well, I haven't been able to post any of this stuff, and I'm kind of really grateful that he's up here and recognize that there's some good music here, and so we're gonna, we posted one the other night. Like I said, it's a little rough, but I'm gonna sing you a song here. I actually wrote this in the last week or so, and it's about the Bundy Ranch, and it's the one we did post up there. But I think it'll be a good framework to use for this next period of time in the broadcast here. And so I'll just
check this out, live music.
Yeah,
this is the first for me.
Now, are they gonna be able to hear that all right?
I bet you so.
Okay. I just wrote this here. Now, one thing, I'm a Vietnam veteran, boots on the ground. I have a little disability from my Vietnam experience, and I actually did. While I was over there, I realized that we were fighting the war at the wrong place, shouldn't be over there in Vietnam. We should be here, and that the time was wrong, and they were just wearing out our army and our soldiers, and so here we are now. And one of the things I'm probably repeating my little video I did a little while ago, but I'll just say this, that this song here is the song's about Bundy, the Bundy Ranch, the war of Bunkerville, and but that's a federal level. But even at every level, as you know already, I don't need to tell you this, but if you decided to plant a shrub in your yard, and the county inspector decided you shouldn't have that shrub, if you don't pull the shrub out, I mean, if you say no matter what, I'm not doing it, I will not do it, I'm not pulling that shrub out. If you really refuse to do it, you would end up dead. Somewhere there'd be helicopters and SWAT teams, and eventually you'd be dead. And then your plant would be pulled out. We have that draconian power and dominance at every level of our society, right down to your cities. So this is the song I wrote about. It's called The Battle of Bunkerville, just off the press. In 2014, we took a little trip, along with Clive and Bundy, to the Bunker Hill Bridge. Mothers and fathers, old folks were there, patriots and cowboys, there was freedom in the air. Well, since Sheriff Gillespie headed for the hills, 200 Federales could do what they will. At Ruby Ridge and Bunkerville, and now Bunkerville, if the sheriff won't protect you, then we the people will. 100 and 1,000 and thousands more armed bureaucrats are waging a war against our liberty, God and family. In your state, in my state, the whole country. Well, they attacked Clive's family, and the threat was clear. They had attack dogs and stun guns and snipers in the rear. They killed families at Waco and Ruby Ridge too. They said, basically, give us trouble, Clive, and we'll kill your family too. But freedom lovers from across the land brought the guns and ammo. We're going to take a stand against terrorists and rustlers and murderers and thieves and jackbooted bureaucratic employees. 100 and 1,000 and thousands more armed bureaucrats are waging a war against your liberty, God and family, and your state, my state, the whole country. Now, this is really what Clive said. Well, Clive said, you've got 1 hour now to lay down your guns and release our cows. An hour came and went, the cowboys took their place. We called upon God and we marched to the gate. We all agreed that we wouldn't fire the first shot, but if they did, they'd soon be talking to God. And our dead-eye resolve was plain to see, and they said,
give us 30 minutes and we'll pack up and leave.
That's what they really said. 100 and 1,000 and thousands more armed bureaucrats are waging a war against our families, God and liberty, in my state and your state and the whole country. Now, county sheriffs, now counties and states, it's time to arise to save the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Our fourth after sheriffs, they are the key to keep we the people safe and free. Well, the feds back down, and but they'll want you to pay. They'll be a sneaking and a creeping, and they're heading your way. And Clive went through a picnic, and we called upon God as well, because we the people won the battle of Bunkerville. 100 and 1,000 and thousands more armed bureaucrats are waging a war against our liberty, God and family, in your state, in my state, the whole country.
That's a great song, man. I love it.
You forgot to get your banjo out.
Yeah.
You could have played along with me.
I'm learning the banjo. I've got a little bit down. Learned got it tuned to G. And doing some one finger chords and music and
we're making a slide banjo. Yeah, that's what we basically have. So, but that said, the concept here, one of the things that happened up there, the sheriff kind of said that he came out to prevent violence, but what really prevented violence was the fact that there were people women and children. Now, there weren't a lot of children, but there were some. And there were enough people there that the people prevented either Clark County Sheriff's Department or the BLM to actually, I mean, that could have been another Waco. I mean, they kill families. I mean, that's historically like evidence. And of course, some of our listeners may be younger. I'm 67, so I'm was very well attuned to what was going on at Waco and Ruby Ridge, and I wrote a number of songs about that actually over the years. But the thing that I thought was that I noticed is that the people that you see in the picture that are armed with guns and they look like they're SWAT team, well, they literally those are Clark County police, and they're behind the barricade with BLM, and they drove their big giant wheeled tank in there, and so those were not BLM people; those are Clark County. Now, the other thing that happened, and I noticed that Sheriff Gillespie had a big smile on his face when they showed up to direct traffic because the freeway was shut down. And now I think back about it. We had the county sheriffs in our midst, in the rear of us, and we had them at the front. And if firing had taken place, those county sheriffs would be firing on us. They wouldn't have been firing on the BLM. And we got to probably be more aware of that. These sheriffs, they have to. It's their job. They're the law enforcement in the county, and it's their job to protect the people. And if there's laws if Bundy broke a law, then the sheriff needs to be involved in that. And if he needs to be arrested or something, if that was the case, and then that's his job. It's not some bureaucrat from Washington D.C. who has arbitrary police power. They just assign it to him. They hand him a gun. And let's see. The one thing I like about the song too is that we actually say, "Give us trouble, Cliven. Give us trouble, Cliven, and we'll kill your families too." And that's exactly their mentality. And so that's kind of what's going on here. Ask a question, quick.
Well, I want to start by saying that I was there, and that line of Metro that was across the interstate there. I marched up to there. I had my sign before I had my UCY.TV sign. I CBN, Fox, and CNN and stuff. And I got my brother. Thanks, Victor. He made those signs. But anyways, so I had one that he had made for me previously. I said, because I was in a hurry, I said, "Make me a sign that says media." And I marched up there to him, and after I mustered up some courage, and it's like all they would say to me really was, "Don't come any closer." And I was really shaking. I had like a dog shedding tax. But we stood up that day, and we all stood together. It's amazing that that's really a turning point in history that we've got.
And I actually do have some talent. Like this song here I just wrote, and I'm not sure how well I performed it here, but it's right at the meat of what's going on. And this is I really want to write some songs that is really getting at what's happening, and like again every time I sing the words that if you give us trouble, Clive, and we'll kill your family too. That's what they do. And it's not just Waco and Ruby Ridge. It's happened many other places too. We just didn't hear about those so much, but that's what they do. And we need to, Now, let me just tell you a little about my history. My mother was a John Bircher in the 50s. And so I grew up, when I was a kid, I graduated in 65. And even when I was young, I just heard about the communists and the conspiracies. And I've heard about it all my life. For a lot of years, I was discouraged because there was nobody. Even as an adult, I'd go down and be down in front of the Federal Building or doing things that out with signs and things, and there was no support. And I tell you what, first of all, when Rush Limbaugh came along, it was like, wow, finally somebody's talking my language. And then of course, we had other people showing up in the media. And then the Tea Party. I'm speaking from the perspective of a person probably a little older than most of our listeners there. From my perspective, the Tea Parties, finally there's people that are rising up and waking up, and what a blessing. And I tell you what, I just wrote down a note here that I need to write a Tea Party song that we're not, it's for me. It's just I can kind of. I can kind of do what I want to do. I really want to write music and do writing. I don't want to spend my time with protest signs, and at that level, I have some other talents that I want to be able to apply. So, I'm really grateful that Vince is here because he's helping. I need a manager. That's all there is. I got talent, but I'm not very organized, and he's able to get me up on the internet in all different ways. And hopefully we can make a difference. So I'm going to be shooting songs out there, and I hope you guys will support. And well, you like them because I write good songs. That's all there is to it.
He does. I'll tell you what, I've listened to a lot of them, and a lot of great ones. Hey, I'm going to give a shout out to Stephen Brooks out at the Bundy Ranch right now. He just posted in Facebook. He said he's headed to the river for night and hopes he sees a rattlesnake. He's going to eat it.
You met one last night.
Oh yeah. Hey, here's something I ain't sure, but nobody else is. And this is what kind of bad old hombre I am. I'm pissed on a rattlesnake.
He went outside to relieve himself out in the desert there, just outside the back there, and he says, "Does that sound like a rattlesnake?" And he directed a little bit of liquid in that direct to the shore. No,
a little old 1 foot rattlesnake. I seen him there, and I said, "Now that sure looks like a snake." It was dark out. I brought my phone for light, but I tell you what, I'm taking a flashlight every time I take that midnight trip from now on.
We got the snakes out here.
Yeah, lots of them. Hey, Joe says Rush he vomits. You know, believe it or not, back about 25 years ago, I remember hearing Rush Limbaugh on some AM radio as I was driving across California up through there, and I think he really started out right. I don't listen to him anymore personally, except for now I am subjected in the background to Rush and some of these other guys.
But the truth is that when he came online and started, it was like, is anybody even thinking about it? There was no voice, and he was the first voice, and I still do appreciate him. I mean, he really has brought it. He really was the pioneer of this whole conservative radio and television, and I still listen to him, I guess, just because of it's entertaining. But anyway, that's my opinion.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Gordon Martinez for Sheriff 2014 here in Clark County, Nevada. And boy, he has got some stuff. I posted that there earlier. He's got some stuff stirred up now. I ain't kidding. Posted in the Las Vegas Tribune. So I'll repost that again right as I go off air. I'm going to plug into my earphones now, and we're coming up to the end here. I'd like to give a big shout out to Jaja Original. You can find her all over the place. Reverb Nation. I'll find her here on Facebook, YouTube, and she's going to rock us out with some Radioactive. And she's one tough chick. I really appreciate her. Again, hey, everybody standing up for the right fight. Appreciate it. Everybody in chat, you guys are awesome. This past year, I've really gotten to be friends with some folks in there. We talk, sometimes, and you guys know who you are. Appreciate y'all. Anyways, Drew, David, and Chuck, the Double Cross Radio coming up next. Stay tuned to UCY.TV. Big shout out and thanks to Jules. She's awesome. She makes it all possible. Lots and lots of great radio right here because UCY and hey, you, we, us, we are the media. Okay, right. And thanks again to Dave for PM Beers. For everybody to come on, I really appreciate it. Judas, man, you rocked it. You knocked it out of the park. Thanks, Leonard. Appreciate you. Great guy right here. Got a lot of challenging information that I'm sorting through with him, which is, I think, always good, as I have said before. Anyways, we're going to be coming out just here in just about a minute. I'm going to go over here to Skype and get ready to hang up on y'all and bring in, again, Double Cross Radio. Stay tuned. Yeah, UCY.TV. Anytime now. All right, folks, take care. Love and peace, y'all. Yeah.
From Democrats, Republicans, your information's jumbling. The USA is crumbling. Y'all sit back and dumb as shit. The mass invasion, the home invasions, the CPS is coming to snatch your babies. These confiscations, these conversations, they're operating within the zones we're trading. We're in the matrix, now we're totally raided. They infiltrated, finally the devil gave in. If you can't hear me, then pump up the volume. McDonald, Bin Laden, Osama, Obama, bring up something real, legalize marijuana. Everything on a bong hit is as blonde as Madonna. Radioactive, intergalactic, counterattacking, the main attraction, make it happen.